Hi, I'm Kevin, and I volunteered with IVHQ in Costa Rica over winter break. I had a fun time and quite a learning experience about their culture and some health issues facing their nation. By keeping a global perspective on health, it is easy to see ways in which their healthcare system could be improved. With IVHQ, we were set up to live with a host family instead of staying at a hotel. This gave us all a much more authentic experience since we got to live the life of a Costa Rican for 2 weeks and even got home cooked meals for breakfast and dinner every day. This was my room I shared with Michael, who you'll see later. I got to know him well, and bonding with someone new made the trip even more rewarding. Here are some of the things that we got to do in my quote unquote tourist time there. The top right pictures are both taken on the main university's campus, with the far right one being statues and artwork that I thought were unique, and in the center middle being a sloth, or as they say in Spanish, a perezoso. The picture in the top left shows a stereotypical San Jose, Costa Rica street, with buildings coming right up to the sidewalk, reminiscent of San Francisco. Nearly every building had a metal fence in front of the street, and there was graffiti present nearly everywhere. The video that just played in the bottom left was a soccer game that I got to take my host dad to go see. It was his favorite team playing, and that is a goal that they scored in the game, which they ended up winning. This game was one of the top moments of the trip. Since I'm a soccer fan myself, it just ended up being a pretty special moment, taking him to his first game in 3 years, and on top of that, they won. The final picture is a common street market with lots of common household items for sale, as well as some souvenirs and such. So here's just a couple more things about Costa Rica. In the top, you have their famous beach, Manuel Antonio. It's surrounded by rainforest, which you can see on the edges of that photo. They also have very interesting architecture throughout their main city of San Jose, which you can see in those remaining 3 pictures. In the bottom right one, you could even see a cathedral in the background, which is very common in Costa Rica since they are a very Catholic country. They also don't have a military since about 70 years ago legislation passed to funnel that money instead into education and healthcare. They have a great education system, but their healthcare system definitely still needs some work, as well as the general healthiness among the population for multiple reasons. In general, the country has much lower air quality and air quality emission standards for vehicles. For instance, while staying in the city, it pretty much felt like I was breathing diesel for most of the time I was there. Costa Rica also abides by traditional gender roles in the family, where the male holds the job and the female takes care of the home. This has caused the general trend of the female population being more overweight and less healthy than the males. If they weren't taking the bus, the males would often walk to work, therefore getting exercise and further increasing this health gap. And while that's healthy for the males, it just does lead to more of a health discrepancy between the two genders. Their portion sizes were also similar to American sizes, which has, in our country, seen an increase in obesity among Americans, and this trend has begun to arise in Costa Rica as well. To ensure health among the populations, it may be necessary to make a few changes to the status quo in Costa Rica. Emission standards should be set in order to create a healthier environment for humans and all wildlife. It would also be wise to educate and encourage moderate intensity exercise among the entire population to combat the rising trend of being overweight. So we were there to volunteer after all. The project our first day was to repaint a school, and you can see a few of the pictures here. We repainted the walls as well as the play structure, and we were instructed to paint some morals and values for the students to uphold. You can see those written as well. On another day, we went to a very poor area of Costa Rica that happened to be built on a landfill. This was mostly populated by Dominican immigrants, and all these immigrants were very poor. Not only were their homes built on a dump, they were also located right next to a concrete quarry, so health issues abounded with these people. We were only there for 1 day, but during this day we were able to make them lunch and play with the children, both games as well as with piñatas. And during the first week, we also had 2 other assignments. One where we went to a foster home and we played sports and did crafts with those children. And the last day, we worked in a retirement home. This retirement home experience was powerful because we got to see the joy in the participants when they realized there was something new happening that day. They are used to a monotonous daily, weekly, and monthly schedule that everything happens the same every day, every week, every month. So we were all very excited to bring new experiences to them. The whole second week that in Costa Rica, I worked in a retirement home, and there were many healthcare differences that showed themselves during that week. Here's Carrington dancing with one of the patients in the care home and her sister Madison watching over her shoulder. The nurses at this home were so glad that we were there to help, as every day they complained about being overworked and underpaid for their work. We were able to assist in many ways, including many that wouldn't be legal in America. For instance, under supervision, I was able to inject one of the patients with insulin, feed one with a nasogastric tube, and even sort through medications. Even though I did these things under supervision in America, I wouldn't be able to touch those responsibilities with a 10-foot pole. There's also nothing even close to resembling HIPAA in Costa Rica, as we were instructed merely to throw away outdated patient files. There's no shredding, no censoring the names, nothing like that, just throw it straight into the trash. It's pretty unimaginable in America. Another thing that stood out to me was the lackadaisical attitude toward their medications. First of all the pharmaceuticals were sitting in labeled cubbies for anyone to access, and secondly, there were no baseline tests done before administration of a couple medications. For instance, before injecting insulin for their lunch time, the nurse didn't even take a blood glucose reading. Also, before administering blood pressure medications, they didn't check the blood pressure of the patient. So frankly, that was a little mind-blowing. But all these things go to show the difference in culture surrounding healthcare in Costa Rica. Global health principles would dictate that medications were to be properly administered after testing for the necessity of that medication, and that more staff should be there to help. We also saw with the Dominicans that they are born and raised at a disadvantage because of their unhealthy environment, and there is a cultural sentiment of racism towards these Dominican immigrants. This whole entire situation should be rectified if we are to bring about global health in Costa Rica.